All right, back at the trail again. I didn't think there was going to be a part three to this who's the GOAT of quarterbacks, but I'm up to part three already. I got to do it. Again, the view ain't good. Forget the view, just listen to the commentary. The reason I'm doing a part three is because, first of all, I left out three quarterbacks that deserve mention. One quarterback, you have to mention Troy Aikman. I should have mentioned him. One of the most accurate passes ever. Would I rate him as one of the GOAT, one of the greats ever? Hard to say. And if you ask around about Troy Aikman, and if you watch the comments on the bottom of NFL.com, you'll see people that will rate Troy Aikman very low. They say how overrated he is. That was a team that had Emmitt Smith. That was a team that had, the playmaker, Michael Irvin, had weapons and tremendous offensive line. A tremendous offensive, kind of like very hard to rate Dak Prescott for this 2016 season that just finished because of the tremendous offensive line and weapons that he has. And Dallas had a very good defense, and Jimmy Johnson is a coach. But come on, you can't sell Troy Aikman short. His passing was tremendous. He was a key component on those winning teams. And is a great quarterback. One of the greats of all time. I don't know. I'm not putting him up there with Marino. I'm not putting him up there with Elway. Not putting him up there with Montana and Brady. And not with Manning. I think Manning's probably got to be ahead of him. But Aikman is a tremendous quarterback and deserves maybe top 10 consideration. If you watched they just had America's Team and they talked about Troy Aikman. I believe it was America's Team, one of the shows where they talked about Troy Aikman. They showed what a true leader he was and how he was a glue that held that team together. There's a lot of egos on that team, and then I could see, I hear it, I hear this, I can feel, I believe the fact that you sometimes need that one guy, the quarterback, to make sure that all the pieces are working together, keep them on their toes, keep them working hard, keep the practices intense, and it seems like Troy Aikman did all that, and I will give him that. We got to put that intangible to his credit. Oh, by the way, as a commentator, always too conservative on his calls. You've heard me say that as you see me do my Bob Productions or my Salty Pepper Productions on that used to be. But we're not talking about him as a commentator. So a mention to Troy Aikman. We go now to Steve Young. He's got to get a mention. But again, I personally think Steve Young was overrated. Yes, he was a great player. But please don't mention him in the same line as Joe Montana. And I think Jerry Rice has said that. Maybe because Jerry Rice, I don't know what there was between him and Joe Montana, but he said, yeah, Jerry Rice could, Steve Young could have done the same thing, please. Steve Young is no Joe Montana. Steve Young is a great quarterback, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And he used his legs. You got to throw in the fact that he used his legs to his advantage, scrambling and running. So that's to his advantage. He's the best lefty quarterback of all time. I think, there's that plane again. Let me give you a little view here. See the Tri-Rail station here in Florida? But anyway, yes, the top NFL top 10s, those top 10s that are on NFL Network, they do list Steve Young as the best lefty quarterback ever, ahead of Kenny Stabler, who, by the way, I'm not mentioning as in the top. Come on, he's no GOAT. He's an excellent quarterback, but please. All right, but Steve Young is a great quarterback, but not one of the tops ever. And one of the reasons, here's where I want to, you got to mention playoff games again when rating your quarterbacks. And he lost a few where he was the favorite. He lost to the Cowboys where he was a favorite. He lost to the Packers and Brett Favre when he was a favorite. And that I'm holding against him. Again, there were big interceptions he threw at key times. Again, I'm nitpicking, but not nitpicking to put him down as an average quarterback. I'm showing you a couple of games that lowers him from being the GOAT. That's all. I'm just taking him away from being the GOAT of quarterbacks. And I don't even know if he's a top 10. I don't think you can put him top 10 ever. I'm not sure about that. But certainly not up there in the top of the top. Cream of the cream. Cream of the crop. And another quarterback I want to mention is Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly, again, no, please don't put him up there in the top. He's a clear notch below the Marinos, Montanas, and John Elways of the world, and the Bradys of the world. when they say, well, you can't blame him for losing 4 Super Bowls. Yes, the defense is much to blame for them losing 4 Super Bowls. He ran a tremendous, the red gun offense, and he called his own plays. That's to his advantage. He go up to the line. He run a no huddle at all times. They call it whatever, the red gun. I forgot what it's called. I think it was the red gun. And he would make his own play calls, and that hurt him in Super Bowl 25, where he should have called more running plays. He was too impatient against the Giant defense that was playing a 2-3-6. They only had 2 linemen, 3 linebackers in there, although they lined up a 4th secondary guy as a linebacker, and 6 in the back. So he's got to be patient. Thurman Thomas had 125 yards that game. He should have got more and throw to him more. He got 70 yards passing, Thurman Thomas. Throw to him even more. The Giant strategy run by Bill Belichick on the defensive end there under Bill Parcells was to have Kelly throw the ball and then smack the heck out of the receivers, and they did that day. They smacked the heck out of Andre Reed. They smacked the heck out of the receivers that they had, and therefore that was the defensive plan that worked. They only got 17 offensive points that day, 19 total including the safety. And the Giants held on to the ball for 40 minutes. Again, the Bills' weakness that year was their run defense. The weakness that the Giants took advantage of was to run the ball with O.J. Anderson. And they held the ball for 40 minutes. I admit that's why they lost, but give Jim Kelly some of the blame. And for sure blame him in Super Bowl 26, where the Redskins put pressure on him. And when you put pressure on him, he was terrible in Super Bowl 26 against the Redskins. Here comes the train! Hey! And that wasn't one of the passenger trains, went right by, or that was express, I'm not sure, but you got a chance to see that. Anyway, so Jim Kelly was terrible in Super Bowl 26, and in Super Bowl 27, one of the, that's interesting because he was hurt during the playoffs. Frank Reich came in and made one of the greatest comebacks in all playoff history against the Oilers, being behind 31-3 or something like that, and therefore Reich really deserved a chance to be in the Super Bowl, and that's what happened. Jim Kelly gets hurt in the first half of that game, so it's hard to give him a rating for that game. And Super Bowl 28 against the Cowboys again, good first half. But then the turnovers started killing him, and I can't blame Kelly there, I guess, because it was the Thurman Thomas fumble and the Washington return, James Washington return. That was the turning point of that game, and from there it was downhill as the weakness, the Cowboy defense, the Bills defense let Troy Aikman start to get there, start to exert themselves, and so again, Kelly had bad playoff games. By the way, the championship game against Denver, which they won 7-6, I believe, a bad game for Kelly. He was exposed there on his way to Super Bowl 27 as being someone that if you blitzed and put pressure, it could work. As a matter of fact, I say to this day that had the Giants decided to blitz, that I think that would have worked. That we'll never know. Belichick's plan worked with the 2-3-6. But the Redskins and the Denver Broncos in the championship game the next year, not on the way to 27, on the way to 26 against Denver, showed that you could blitz them and get away with it. And when you blitz Kelly, he would rattle. He could get rattled. So that puts him a little. Again, I'm not everything I said doesn't put him as an average quarterback. He's a great quarterback, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but don't put him up there with the Marinos and the Elways and the Montanas and the Bradys and the Mannings. So those 3 I wanted to mention. I finished this S.A.L.T production by mentioning just one quarterback, nothing to do with GOAT, but one of the most overrated quarterbacks of all time, and that is Randall Cunningham. I just want to mention him because in my day, I would go crazy and say, he is not even a good quarterback. See there, I'm not saying, well, he's not a GOAT, but he's a great quarterback. No, he's not even great. He's not even a good quarterback unless you consider, it's the only reason I would consider him a good quarterback. I would only give him the rating of good because of the tremendous plays that he made. He made some of the most athletic plays, some of the most amazing plays. Ask Bruce Smith, who couldn't get a hold of him, and from his own end zone threw a 60-yard pass that ended up resulting in being a 98-yard touchdown. Ask Carl Banks, who bounced off of him and couldn't make the tackle, and Randall Cunningham makes a great play there. He on the run. He could throw on the run and didn't lose much. Most quarterbacks, when they're on the, when they have to roll out right or roll out left, they lose a lot of their accuracy. Whatever accuracy he had, he maintained when he rolled out. But that's where I want to start with his negatives, accuracy. And that's what does a good quarterback have to have? Accuracy, good decision making on a consistent basis, and he didn't do either of those. He did not throw accurately, consistently. He always bailed out of the pocket too early when making decisions on who to throw to and when to throw and when to run. He got rattled if you kept him in the pocket, and I want to point to demonstrate that playoff games. Again, I do remember I've said this many times that I really take into account how you play in the playoffs very much. So that is a factor in determining if you're good, and it also shows, right? It makes you good if you play well in the playoffs, and it is a sign of whether or not you're good. And he had number of games where they were the favorites. Him as a quarterback for Philadelphia should have won the game, and he laid an egg. In his first playoff game, what was that, against the Rams? Or I don't know if that was his first, but one of his first playoff games against the Rams, he was a big favorite, laid an egg. Against the Redskins, oh, it's one of my favorite games of all time. Reggie Pettenbaum, the defensive coordinator of the Redskins, kept them in the pocket, kept Randall Cunningham in the pocket by maintaining the lanes. He told the defensive line, and they were disciplined to maintain the lanes, not let him out, and he was rattled. A 20-6 victory in a game that the Eagles are favored at home. That's two. He finally did get a win. I'm sorry, another loss. He had, what was it? Oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind. Another loss that Randall Cunningham had to the, I can't remember the third one, but he finally won one against the Saints, a team that never won a playoff game under playoffs, under Jim Mara. And Jim Mara famous for playoffs. And yeah, he couldn't do well. He didn't do well in the playoffs, and they fell behind in that game. So I'll give a little credit to Cunningham for coming back from a deficit there through a couple of deep touchdown passes against a very good New Orleans Saint defense with those linebackers that were tremendous. Sam Mills, Ricky Jackson, who else? There's one other great one there. So give credit there, but his playoff performance, he showed and demonstrated that Randall Cunningham, was not even a good quarterback unless you want to consider his tremendous plays that he made, and he was okay. He's maybe an average quarterback, maybe good because of his athletic ability. By the way, athletic ability, he could run. He was built like a running back. He could even punt. He came in and had a 90-yard punt against the Giants in the wind. He would do that. They would suddenly have him punt. Tremendous athlete, but athlete's not what a quarterback's got to be. He's got to be a quarterback who throws accurately, consistently, and can make good decisions in the pocket, and he did not do that well. And that's about it, 13 minutes. I covered 3 more quarterbacks. I covered Randall Cunningham. I'll probably end up with a part 4 if I think of more quarterbacks. The GOATs up there, Dan Marino is my GOAT. Then you have the Montanas of the world, Elway, Tom Brady. Peyton Manning below that because of his playoff, 16 times out of 27, subpar playoff performance. You got Brett Favre up there. You got, who else you got up there in the greats? Again, I'm not going back to the Johnny Unitas's of the world and the Otto Grahams of the world. And you can't put, maybe top 10, can you put Troy Aikman in there? I'm not even mentioning, again, I mentioned in the last one, Roger Staubach, going back to the Saints. I don't know what to do with him. Definitely don't put no Terry Bradshaw, overrated. Don't look at how many Super Bowl rings a guy has. It's to his advantage, yes, it's to his credit, but that doesn't make Terry Bradshaw one of the great quarterbacks of all time. Neither does 2 Super Bowls for Eli Manning, or 2 Super Bowls for sure Jim Plunkett, just to demonstrate my point. Of course, that you don't go by rings. I've mentioned now Jim Kelly. No, he's not up there. Steve Young, nah, he's not up there in the GOATs. And that is a 1440. We got to hold it there. That's another great Super Bowl, another great analysis. Low tech. I mean, look at the view you had this time. Look at that. That's your view. S.A.L.T. analysis, part 3. Who's the GOAT? It's Dan Marino.